So did you learn a little bit about each other, about what confidence means to the people around your table? Yes? Yeah. We did it at our table. I was so fortunate to be sitting with our guest speaker today, too. So confidence definitely means a lot of different things to different people. So it's now my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Joanna Dutra, the Creative Confidant and Curator of Confidence. I think that's the best title ever. Joanna is the dynamic and charismatic founder of the Creative Confidant, offering confidence coaching, motivational speaking, and personal branding. She helps people find the best way to present themselves to the world. From blades to batteries, burgers to beer, Joanna has a solid background in advertising and product marketing for Fortune 500 companies. After spending nearly 20 years building big brands like Gillette, Duracell, Stop and Shop, and Wendy's, she decided to bring her zest for product marketing to a personal level. Joanna has a penchant for seeing gifts in people that may not see them in themselves, uncovering hidden talents and building their best personal brand. She uses her love of language to arm clients with strategic communication skills, helping prepare for interviews and challenging conversations, ultimately crafting a stronger sense of self. This is really interesting about Joanna. Joanna has a broad musical theater background, plays the piano and violin, and loves to sing, all making her comfortable in front of an audience. And one of her biggest thrills is doing stand-up comedy, which I can't even imagine. Joanna holds a BA in English and Finance from Georgetown University and MBA in Marketing and Organizational Behavior from Boston University. She is a frequent contributor to Forbes, where her vision of the world is a source of humor and positivity. Whether making presentations or making people laugh, Joanna believes confidence is contagious. We hope you'll follow her on her Instagram, The Creative Confidant. Additional information and published Forbes articles. We're going to forward some information with you after the meeting. Joanna told me she would do that. But you can also visit her on her website, creativeconfidant.com. BFFs, please help me give a warm welcome to Joanna Dutra.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. What a great group. I already had an excellent preview from Becky and the group over at Table 1. But I would have loved to be just a centerpiece. No, I would never be a centerpiece. I'd be like a chair at your table because I wanted to hear the answer, everyone's answer to what makes you, what was the question? Karen, set me up here. It was what makes you confident? What is your best description of, I just love that. What is that one trait that you admire? I never asked a question that I already have an answer to, so I went last because I'm not sure. I think that my answer would change every day, just like I can't pin myself to what color is my favorite. I remember, she's not here right now. I came in today and I said I liked someone's blazer, but I don't, was it Colleen? Colleen, yeah. Okay. And I said, it's a great color, I can never wear it. She's like, yes you can wear any color. And I can't think of a better way to completely dismantle everything that Karen said in her introduction about how I help people feel more confident. We all have moments where we are not feeling confident, and that's okay. It's kind of creating more moments of feeling comfortable. So here's the thing. Today, I thought we would reflect a little bit on where we've been, and allow me to take you down a little so that I can bring you back up. These past few years have been a challenge, right? We have been going through a tremendous amount of change. And change isn't always comfortable, right? But the growth comes when we are uncomfortable. And so I feel like, and this is a conversation, so if something sparks you, what I'm saying, please raise your hand and participate, because I'd love to get your ideas. But I really feel like distance made us disengage with one another. Do you feel that's true? We were physically apart, and we were told to be apart, but then we had to re-enter, we had to re-engage, and it's in that re-engagement that things didn't feel quite right, like a dress that didn't fit like it used to. You knew that you could still wear it, but maybe you had to wear it differently. Am I too loud? Am I talking too loud? Okay. We kind of figured out who we want in our sphere, right? When everything got pared down and we were with our core, we could kind of determine, okay, what are some things that I can get rid of? What are some layers, perhaps, that I could shed? And I don't really need all the small talk. Maybe I don't need these small exchanges at Starbucks or in a pickup line or at a cocktail party. Maybe what I need is, you fill in the blank, right? Did you go through that kind of revolution or evolution for yourself? Did you discover some things about how you are? I did, for sure. I am an extrovert. I know this is not shocking, but I've always admired my friends and colleagues who are on the more introverted side, because I think that you allow yourself to be more reflective, kind of doing exactly what I'm saying, which is paring things down and only being, only finding and prioritizing what's the most important and going from there. So in doing that, I feel like we have become really good at several things, but one of the things I think we've become really good at is coping. I mean, how good are our coping skills right now, right? We get one thing after another, and we're able to kind of, I've tried to steer away from words that we've used over and over, one of those being pivot, but it is truly a pivot, right? It's like a half turn each time, like, okay, we're gonna do this, and now we can add that. I used to think that the generation before us had all the big stuff, right? They were dealing with the wars and Vietnam and World War II. I thought that we paled in comparison. But now I'm realizing, through the pandemic and all of the ensuing global crises that I won't talk about now, but we have the big things too. And those big things take up big space in our head, takes up big space. So there's times where we have to allow ourselves a little bit of grace and a little bit of flexibility, which actually, that was the word I used for what's a good trait for being more confident. I think that being flexible in any way can help with your overall confidence. In addition to myriad other things that people talked about, like humor and honesty. I love honesty. What were some of the other traits that we had?
Directness, they said.
Yes, that's great. I admire that. We can't always do that, but when we can talk without a filter, that's great too. Well, it's a lot of pressure, but it's always our response to things that are just as important as the challenge itself. Not just the challenge, but how we dealt with that challenge. So I feel like, and I know Becky's not here anymore, we had a great entree into what she does at Whittier in her rehabilitation hospital. I think that we are kind of at a crossroads. We're at a point where we have to rehab ourselves back, not in a physical way, but in a social way. We have to re-engage with one another in a kinder way, perhaps in a more humble way. I feel like it was awkward when we were re-entering society, right? We took off the masks. We weren't sure whether to shake hands or how we were going to greet one another. And I'm a hugger. I mean, I'm Italian. It's like in our blood. I'm going to go in for a hug if I can. It's just a way that I connect with people. But that wasn't necessarily it. And I don't even know if I was great at making eye contact right after that. Because I thought, oh, geez, didn't I just say that we don't have to engage in small talk? So I was like, maybe I can sneak around the grocery store and not have to see everybody. That's not, it's whatever your choices are. So in rebuilding these human connections that we might have lost our way with, how do we find our way? So how do we find our way back to where we feel most comfortable? It's okay to have had this upheaval because we're on the road to somewhere better, right? We can't just go through something so significant or traumatic sure that they're very personal to you, but I'm going to share a couple of things that have helped me. So basically, I feel like my top recommendation is a steady infusion of hope and humor. However you find those. I don't think that happiness is a choice. Does anyone ever hear that, like, oh, well, just be happy? You know, it's not like that. It's not an on and off switch. It's not an app. You don't just plug yourself in and you're suddenly happy. You find things that maybe bring you joy, but what are ways that you can find more happiness? I feel that's directly correlative to finding more pockets of hope for yourself. Anytime that you can feel more hopeful, you're going to end up feeling happier as well. And hope itself breeds happiness. So it's like that. I don't have a green thumb. I don't even have a brown thumb. I'm like flora and fauna illiterate, if that's possible. So when I tell you that hope is a plant, I don't know if I should really be telling you it's a perennial or an annual. I don't know if I should be telling you when to plant it. All I know is that it needs to be nurtured. Hope is nurtured, and hope is cyclical, and hope is seasonal. And if it's different for everybody, but finding the hope for yourself is key. I'm going to stop talking about the pandemic. It's just that one more thing. The pandemic happened during my least favorite season. I am a girl from Buffalo. I rank my seasons, and spring is not at the top. Spring's not at the top, but that happened to be when the world shut down. Spring is my least favorite season. And I was like, isn't this great? Like, of course it's happening when it's all muddy, and I don't know anything. You already know, I know nothing about plants or flowers. So it's like, I'm really gonna have to dig deep on this one. And we got out a lot, so I found things on daily walks that were bringing me hope, and I created a hope shelf. Little things that I could see in my day, right in the kitchen. It had to be right in my view. One of the things was this, you're like, oh, I see those all the time. It was a robin's egg. I love that color blue. It's just like your shirt, Chelsea. I love that color. And so I found like a broken one. Fine, it went into a little box, and I put that box on the shelf. That's my sign of hope. Okay, that's like a sign for me, a symbol. And then, amazingly, over subsequent walks, I found bits of robin's eggs. So I thought, this is great, this is a sign of continuing this hope. The more hope you have, the more hope you find. So another way that hope helps you is to find, well, hope and humor. You know, we live in a serious world. It's hard to find the humor when things are very serious. So what are ways that we can find that peace that is going to bring us joy? I heard that there's actually a humor cliff. At age 23, we just suddenly stop laughing as much, like a tremendous amount. And, you know, I'm a little far from 23 right now, so I have no excuse. I need to bring back that humor in order to get to where I was. I want to laugh more. So, I thought I'd share this with you. We were talking about reaction versus response, right? Because how we respond to things is as equal as our reaction. And I'm not like into Disney princesses. Just like, now you have a list of the things I'm not into. I'm not into, what am I not into? Spring. I am not into flora and fauna. I'm not into Tom Brady. We're not talking about him yet, but I had to throw him in because we're going to get to him. But my husband likes to joke that if I were a Disney princess, like this is not actually, neither of these are princesses, but Goldilocks, you got Goldilocks, and you got the Princess and the Pea. You know how the Princess and the Pea is always trying to find, like, I know if the temperature is 1 degree off, like if he said it at something, he likes to be in a warm house because he grew up in a cold one, and I have like the theory that you can always get warm, so he says that the penguins scatter as soon as I come into the room. The penguins go. I like nice and cold, sharp, get your sharp. So anyway, I mean, as a guy, he probably probably wishes that I was more like Sleeping Beauty, right? Just like sitting still and looking gorgeous. But I'm not Sleeping Beauty. I'm not even, like I said, I meet somewhere between Goldilocks and the Princess and the Pea. But one day, when we were relegated to our house, I thought it was fun to have different places, like make a reservation in the dining room, or maybe we're gonna eat on the patio tonight. Like, I'll see if I can get us in, I'd say. You know, see if I can get a table for 4. They moved us up. So one day we're in the dining room. This is when we couldn't go out. And we had candles burning. It was a nice moment. It was a nice dinner. We had good seating. And so my girls were they were talking about the candles, which were kind of burning at uneven lengths. And I don't know how we got to this, but we were talking about the wick of the candle. And my husband is a patient man. Like, his patient knows no bounds. So his wick is like long. And we're talking about wicks, people. This is lunch, all right? Talking about wicks, the wick of a candle. So we have that, and then I say, oh yeah, like this candle that's burning very quickly and is like almost without, you know, very low wick. I'm like, this is more like me, right? And my 4-year-old is like, your wick is like, you don't have a wick. So I was like, oh my goodness, you know, I can maybe work on my temper or my quickness to get upset. We always have things we can, I have wick work to do, apparently. Another thing we can do that makes us feel better is to keep our goal setting realistic. Aren't we in a mode right now where we're starting to think about 2024, and 2023 isn't even over? Like, we haven't even entered the last month of the year. There's plenty that can still happen this year without looking too far over the future. When we look so far, then we forget where we are, and it's just this constant pressure. So I started knocking out our traditional ways of goal setting. You know how they always have to be time-bound, and you have the SMART acronym, and there's lots of ways that have worked. And I'm not saying that those don't work, but I'm saying entertain maybe a different way of looking at goals. One being, set realistic goals that you can evaluate from time to time, and feel free to add or delete them at will. Like, just like if they're not serving you, just get rid of them, and nobody's keeping track. I have lists, and the lists get knocked off. That feels good when you check something off, but it also feels good when you get rid of something that doesn't even. I've taken on my neighbor's goals, like they're gonna run a marathon, I'm running, wait a minute, that's not my goal. That's their goal. Like, what am I doing? But we do fall into that, right? The comparison. And my mom always said that if you compare yourself to others, you will always lose, and it's true. The minute that we compare ourselves to others is the minute, it's a losing proposition. So, and I know that even me telling you to be realistic, I know that that does happen. It's just, let's try to have it happen less. Does that seem reasonable? And I don't think it means that we're lowering our standards either. I think it just means that we're being more flexible with our situation. Another thing that we can do is lead with our strengths. It's so common that we present ourselves with this version that's cutting ourselves down, like that we lead with our weakness instead of our strength. And that, to Karen's intro about me working for big brands, that is never what we did to sell things. We never talked about the fact that like a 5-bladed blade, a blade in a shaver could cut you. You know, we don't talk about those Tide Pods being terribly poisonous. That is not the things that they talk about. You talk about how well it cleans or how close of a shave you're getting. So same with you. We are so used to not taking a compliment if we get them, right? It makes us feel like we can't because we don't want to, tell me if I'm right. Is it because we don't want to agree with someone that's giving us something nice or we feel weird about it? Because I definitely have a problem with taking a compliment. So I have worked on this because basically when you don't take, I've had to force this narrative into myself. When you don't take a compliment, it's basically insulting the person that gave it to you because you're saying that you don't really trust their taste, you know? Like, how could you say that? I don't even agree. So when I turn it around on myself, I'm like, okay, I don't want to have them feeling that way. So I found a way to meet in the middle. when someone gives you a compliment, you do not have to say thank you, because then it's like, yes, thank you, I know. So I love myself so much. Aren't I great? Thank you so much. No. When they say something nice, all you have to say is, that's nice of you to say. And it seems simple, but it acknowledges where they're at. And I'm telling you that this is important because we're just very quick to do it. I noticed that I did it. You weren't here when I was talking about your lovely blazer and how I can't wear that color. I led with that. You know, I couldn't have given a better, more clear example than that. We have this inner voice. Everyone has it, and it's healthy to have an inner voice because it's our conscience, right? But how does your inner voice talk to you? How does it talk to you? Is it a kind person that lives inside your head? Or is it sometimes an enemy? We cannot have an enemy between our ears. There's no room for that. There's enough people out there that aren't very nice without adding ourselves into the mix, right? So what are some ways to kind of tweak that inner voice? I have a couple of things that I do. One is, if I have a negative thought or a negative narrative, I've given that person that talks that a name. So I play tennis, right? And we get a couple of serves in tennis. That means you have more than one time to try to get into a box. So after the first serve, I was noticing that I was talking to myself really negative. Like if something happened with a serve, I'd be like, using expletives to myself. Nobody could hear it, but it didn't matter because I was really negatively talking to myself, and it adds up. You see, it's not just the one time because it's cumulative. Your brain is able. We just talked about your brain with the laughter cliff. Nobody's going to forget that laughter cliff, right? Your brain stops developing at about age 25, and I wish that I had known that earlier because I probably could have crammed a lot more in there. Think about what you could have done if you had known that it would just... So we can't necessarily have a way of learning more at 20, like our brain stopped growing, the muscles stopped growing, but we can create new pathways. I believe strongly in creating new pathways because that keeps us nimble and limber and able to learn new things and be flexible in how we approach life. So one of those ways is to catch yourself and think, would I say to myself, would I say that to someone I love? Would I say it to my kids or my parents or my neighbor? If what I'm saying to myself is not appropriate for any of those people, it's not appropriate for me either. It's not appropriate for you. So try to keep track of that. And it doesn't come overnight. You don't just stop having a negative narrative. But we can work on that, right? Because we don't need that enemy inside us. We are the narrator of our own story. And remember the story of Rudy Rudiger for Notre Dame? He was the little guy that ended up playing. It's an old movie, but it's on a true story. Rudy said, all my life, people told me what I can and can't do, and I believed them, right? So I sometimes do confidence workshops for kids, and what I tell them, we talk a lot about the concept of winning and losing, and how surprisingly, even though it feels more fun to win, I mean, Tom Brady says nobody plays to lose, right? And that's the nicest thing I can say about Tom Brady. But we actually learn more from losing than we do from winning. Being successful isn't creating the most opportunities for winning, it's actually winning from our losses. So I have these 3 reminders that I tell them, and I think that it's worth all of us. I posted it, some friends have put them on their fridge for their kids, but it's for me. It's like it was for me, but now kids take it. One is just because someone is, just rules to remember. Someone's better than you doesn't mean that you aren't good. That's the first one. The second one is just because someone says that you're not good at something doesn't mean it's true, right? And the third is just because you fail once doesn't mean that you can't succeed. And that one we've heard in a lot of different forms, but I think it's important to list them in those three categories, because we do hear that. We listen to what we're told, and just as we listen to what we're told that can be negative, that's why it's important for our words to ourselves to be good. So what are some ways that we can help, right? We talked about moving away from happy, replacing it with hope, right? Finding pockets of hope, because hope breeds happiness. Creating more laughable moments for yourself. That's important. The idea of taking yourself less seriously. We just don't need to take ourselves that seriously. And, you know, I feel like no one on their deathbed ever said, you know, I wish I could have worked more, right? People don't say that, we've heard that. I also feel like no one on their deathbed ever said, I wish I could have laughed less, right? Nobody thinks that. We should all try to laugh more. So what I'm saying is, you're asking, so you just want me to be funny now? Like, how am I supposed to be funny? What I want you to do is I want you to find more things funny. I'm asking you to find more funny in the everyday. Just the regular stuff, the things that might irritate you. Like the fact that, I don't know, everyone thinks that Dunkin' Donuts is the best coffee. Like, if that's annoying to you, and Mac Jones hasn't been benched, but I am actually, as you know, a Buffalo fan, so we're talking Josh Allen did not have a good night last night. If anyone watched Monday Night Football, he did not have a good night, and it was more like a sitcom than a sports show. So, to my point, he's trying to be funny, right, and that is not working. Playoffs, yeah, so I am upset about that. But try to find the thing that really bugs you and turn it into a joke. That's possible. Work on your humor muscle. It's a muscle. We can work on it. We can expand it. We'll expand more things that are funny, and the next time you find yourself annoyed, think, wait a minute, what did Joanna say? She said to make it funny. Just find it, I'm telling you, it's like a switch. The minute you start doing it, it's almost like going from black and white to Technicolor. Each time, it really does work. Get rid of the pursuit of perfection. It is not possible. I find it interesting to, there's Marie Curie. She says, I don't want to mess up her quote, because that would be failing basically, but she said that you get rid of your pursuit of perfection because it is not attainable. It's not even possible, so why pursue perfection? If we want to take a cue from Goldilocks, let's go for just right. Just right is well below perfection, but we're going for our just right. Whatever is just right for you. And, you know, shake up that goal setting. Don't think that you have to have success each time. Know that you're winning every day just by learning from your mistakes. And lastly, not every year is a vintage year. Wine isn't good every single year. It's not unbelievable. So I give you permission, if the year 2023 isn't serving you, or if it wasn't 2021 wasn't your best year, that's okay. We are working towards improving all the time, and 2024 is on the horizon. Maybe that's going to be our vintage year. There's always that, and I'm sure you can find ones in your past. So just remembering that not every goal has to be this hard and fast deadline. Some years are better than others, and you know, your attitude is your best feature. I really loved having a minute with you guys today, and please let me know if you have any questions, or come up to me afterwards and share your words about what you think makes somebody confident. I'd love to hear that, and I hope you have a really wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you.